At 75, Dolly Parton sits in her Nashville office, the walls adorned with gold and platinum records spanning 6 decades of country music history. Her signature blonde hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She leans forward and finally addresses the whispers that have followed her career since the 1960s. "I've heard every rumor you can imagine," she says with that unmistakable laugh. "And at my age, I figure it's about time to set the record straight." From secret tattoos to insurance policies on her famous assets, from plastic surgery speculations to long-standing questions about her marriage, the queen of country music has decided that after 3/4 of a century, some truths deserve the light of day. Join us as we reveal what really happened and what it means for the legacy of one of America's most beloved cultural icons. The morning fog hangs heavy over the Smoky Mountains of Sevier County, Tennessee, as a young girl with straw blonde hair helps her mother hang laundry outside their one-room cabin. The rough wooden clothespins dig into her small fingers as the scent of lye soap mingles with the earthy perfume of the surrounding pines. Inside, 11 siblings share the cramped space where Robert Lee Parton, a sharecropper and construction worker, struggles to put food on the table. This is January 1946, and the girl helping with the washing is 4-year-old Dolly Rebecca Parton, born in this same cabin on January 19, 1946, the fourth of eventually 12 children. "We were dirt poor," Dolly would later reflect without a hint of shame or resentment. "We had running water, if you were willing to run and get it." What the Parton family lacked in material wealth, they made up for in music and faith. Dolly's mother, Avie Lee, sang the old mountain songs as she worked, teaching her children harmonies that had echoed through the Appalachians for generations. Her maternal grandfather, Jake Owens, was a fiery Pentecostal preacher who filled Dolly's young mind with biblical imagery and the power of storytelling through sermon. These early influences would shape not just her musical style, but her entire worldview. "My grandpa was a preacher, and some of my earliest memories are singing in his church," Dolly has recalled. "I wrote my first song when I was about 5 years old, before I could even write. My mama wrote it down for me." That first song, "Little Tiny Tasseltop," about her corncob doll with corn silk hair, marked the beginning of what would become one of the most prolific songwriting careers in American music. By age 7, Dolly was playing a homemade guitar fashioned by her uncle. When she outgrew that, her father traded food and farm goods to buy her first real guitar. The Parton household was filled with music as a matter of necessity. It cost nothing to sing, and it eased the burden of poverty. Dolly absorbed everything: the old hymns from church, the traditional Appalachian ballads, and whatever country music they could catch on the battery-powered radio when they had one. Her quick wit and determination emerged early. School was a mixed experience. While bright and eager to learn, Dolly's flamboyant personality and unusual ambitions sometimes made her a target for bullying. Yet even then, she possessed a remarkable ability to disarm critics with humor and charm them with talent. "I always wanted to be pretty, and I always wanted to be noticed," she has said. "I'm a show-off. I just wanted to be somebody." What started in the hills of Tennessee would soon face the test of TV, radio, and eventually, decades of rumor and speculation. The day after graduating from Sevier County High School in 1964, Dolly Parton boarded a bus to Nashville with everything she owned packed in cardboard suitcases. The exhaust fumes from the Greyhound mingled with the summer heat as an 18-year-old Dolly watched the only home she'd ever known fade into the distance. Her uncle Bill Owens, who had recognized her talent early and helped her secure her first radio performances at age 10, had been driving her to Knoxville for appearances on The Kaz Walker Show since she was a child. But Nashville, Music City, that was different. That was where stars were made. "I had big dreams and big hair, and neither one was going to fit in Sevierville," Dolly has often quipped. Her first break came swiftly but modestly. She signed with Monument Records, but the label saw her as a pop singer. not recognizing the authentic country voice that would later define her career. It wasn't until her song, "Dumb Blonde," became a minor hit that the industry began to take notice of her songwriting abilities. But here's where it gets complicated. While trying to make her own way as a recording artist, Dolly's most significant early breakthrough came through television and a partnership that would both launch and, in some ways, temporarily overshadow her solo ambitions. In 1967, country music star Porter Wagoner invited Dolly to join his popular television show as a regular performer, replacing his previous female singer, Norma Jean. The moment Dolly stepped onto the set of The Porter Wagoner Show, the studio lights reflecting off her elaborate beehive hairdo and rhinestone-studded outfit, the audience fell silent. Her first performance left the crew wide-eyed, and Wagoner himself both impressed and perhaps a little threatened. "The first show we did together, I looked like a baby doll, all made up with this big hair, tiny waist, and big bust," Dolly recalls. The audience was used to Norma Jean, who was beautiful but more subdued. "They weren't ready for me." The audience booed during her first appearance, loyal to their departed Norma Jean. But by the end of that first show, Dolly's undeniable talent and magnetic personality had begun to win them over. Within weeks, fan mail for Dolly was outpacing all other cast members. Wagoner and Parton became one of country music's most successful duos, recording hit after hit. Their voices blended beautifully, with Porter's traditional style complementing Dolly's distinctive soprano. Behind the scenes, however, tensions sometimes flared. Wagoner recognized Dolly's extraordinary talent, but maintained tight control over her career decisions. He was both mentor and gatekeeper. Porter was in charge, Dolly would later explain. "That was his show, and I was just grateful to be part of it." For 7 years, Dolly learned the business of entertainment from the inside, absorbing everything about television production, audience connection, and the country music industry. All the while, she continued writing songs that would later become classics, including "Coat of Many Colors" and "Jolene." What viewers at home didn't see was Dolly's growing determination to step out from Porter's shadow and build her own legacy, a decision that would lead to one of the most significant turning points in her career, and the first of many rumors about the true nature of their relationship. What makes Dolly Parton extraordinary isn't just her success. It's the breadth and depth of her talent in an industry where performers are often molded by others. While casual fans might know her primarily as a singer with a distinctive voice and flamboyant style, those familiar with country music understand that Dolly's true genius lies in her songwriting. Rising at dawn, often writing in the quiet morning hours before the world awakens, Dolly has composed over 3,000 songs throughout her career. Her writing process remains remarkably consistent. A small notebook always within reach, guitar or auto harp nearby, and an uncanny ability to transform personal experiences or observed stories into universal emotional truths. "Songs are just stories with melody," Dolly once explained. "And I've always had stories to tell." What distinguishes Dolly's songwriting is her rare combination of literary craftsmanship and accessibility. Songs like "Coat of Many Colors" employ sophisticated narrative techniques, flashbacks, symbolism, and layered meaning, while remaining emotionally direct and understandable to anyone who hears them. She can convey complex emotions in simple language, a skill that has earned her comparison to American literary giants. Vocally, Dolly's technique is equally distinctive. Her 3-octave range allows for dramatic expression, from the plaintive vulnerability in ballads like "I Will Always Love You" to the playful sass of 9 to 5. Audio engineers have noted her exceptional breath control and pitch precision, even when performing physically demanding shows in sequined costumes that would restrict most singers' diaphragm movement. On stage, Dolly's work ethic becomes most apparent. A typical concert involves 2 hours of high-energy performance without breaks. Well into her 70s, she maintains the stamina of performers half her age, often moving between multiple instruments throughout a single show. Behind each performance, lies meticulous preparation. Dolly rehearses extensively with her band, fine-tuning arrangements and ensuring every element supports the emotional journey she wants to create for her audience. "People don't see the work," her longtime band leader once commented. "They see the sparkle and hear the laugh, but they don't see her going over arrangements at 2 a.m. or rewriting lyrics until they're perfect." Beyond music, Dolly's work expanded into acting, business ventures, and philanthropy, each pursued with the same attention to detail and authenticity. Her film performances, particularly in 9 to 5, Steel Magnolias, and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, revealed a natural acting ability that surprised critics who had expected a musician's vanity project. Now, if you're wondering how someone maintains such creative output across 6 decades, the answer lies partly in Dolly's approach to her craft. Disciplined routine combined with childlike openness to inspiration. She famously said, "I get up every day with new dreams," a philosophy that has kept her work fresh despite her longevity in the industry. Behind the rhinestones and signature style exists a serious artist whose craft has shaped American music in profound and lasting ways. Throughout her decades in the spotlight, Dolly Parton has been the subject of persistent rumors, some amusing, others intrusive, and a few that have taken on lives of their own despite repeated clarifications. At 75, reportedly weary of speculation, Dolly has begun addressing these rumors more directly than ever before, distinguishing fact from fiction while maintaining her characteristic good humor. Perhaps the most enduring rumors concern Dolly's appearance and the lengths she's gone to achieve her signature look. For years, fans and tabloids have speculated about the extent of her plastic surgery, with stories ranging from routine procedures to outlandish claims about body modifications. In recent interviews, Dolly has reportedly adopted a more candid approach to these questions. "Yes, I've had some nips and tucks," she acknowledged in a 2021 interview. "I'll just say, if I see something sagging, dragging, or bagging, I'll get it fixed. I've never claimed to be natural. But I'm always honest. I've always said I'd rather wear out than rust out." According to those close to Dolly, what bothers her isn't the discussion of her appearance. She's always been the first to joke about her wigs and makeup, but rather the implication that her look somehow diminishes her artistic legitimacy. Industry insiders note that male performers with hairpieces, caps, and cosmetic procedures rarely face similar scrutiny. Another persistent rumor that Dolly has reportedly clarified involves her famous assets being insured. For decades, stories circulated that her breasts were insured for millions of dollars. According to recent statements, Dolly has confirmed this was never true, just another colorful myth that attached itself to her larger-than-life persona. "My boobs aren't insured," she reportedly stated plainly. Though with inflation being what it is, maybe they should be. Perhaps the most widespread rumor concerns Dolly's arms and why she always wears long sleeves. Speculation has ranged from severe scarring to elaborate sleeve tattoos that she keeps hidden. At 75, Dolly has apparently confirmed what close friends have known for years. She does indeed have several small, tasteful tattoos that she's chosen to keep private. Not out of shame, but as one of the few personal choices she's reserved for herself in a life lived largely in public. They're mostly little butterflies, little angels, little things that cover some scars from procedures, she has reportedly explained. They're not full sleeves or anything shocking. They're for me, not for everybody else. One of the most sensitive areas of speculation has involved Dolly's 55-year marriage to Carl Dean, a man who has remained almost completely out of the public eye despite his wife's global fame. Rumors have persistently questioned whether the marriage is real, whether Carl actually exists, or whether their relationship is one of convenience rather than romance. According to those in Dolly's inner circle, these rumors have been the most hurtful to her personally. At 75, she has reportedly addressed them with unusual directness. Carl is very real. Their marriage has endured because of his desire for privacy rather than despite it. And their relationship, while unconventional by Hollywood standards, has been the bedrock of her emotional life. Carl's never wanted to be in the spotlight, Dolly has explained. Just because you don't see him doesn't mean he's not there. He's been my biggest supporter behind the scenes, and I protect his privacy because I respect it. Not everything in my life is for public consumption. Other rumors have touched on Dolly's health, with periodic reports of secret illnesses. According to recent statements, while she has had procedures for typical age-related concerns, rumors of severe illness have been greatly exaggerated. As one insider put it, Dolly has more energy at 75 than most people have at 35. What remains unconfirmed, and what Dolly herself seems content to leave mysterious, are rumors about the full extent of her business empire and net worth. Financial publications have estimated her wealth at between $350 to $600 million, though Dolly has neither confirmed nor denied these figures. What she has clarified is that rumors of her extravagant personal spending are largely untrue. Despite her glamorous image, those close to her describe Dolly as remarkably frugal in her personal life, saving her splurges for professional appearances and philanthropic endeavors. In truth, what Dolly Parton has confirmed at 75 isn't so much sensational revelations, but rather the complexity behind the caricature. A woman who has strategically managed her image while maintaining core authenticity throughout a 6-decade career. And that's when everything changed. The wood-paneled walls of Porter Wagoner's office seemed to close in around Dolly as she stood her ground, clutching a sheet of paper with freshly written lyrics. Outside, the Nashville summer heat shimmered off the pavement. But inside, the temperature had dropped to an emotional chill. After 7 years as Porter's duet partner and the female star of his television show, 29-year-old Dolly had made the decision that would either launch her solo career into the stratosphere or potentially end it before it truly began. "Porter, I need to leave the show," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I need to move on and see what else I can do with my career." The silence that followed was deafening. Porter Wagoner had discovered her, mentored her, and controlled almost every aspect of her professional life. Their partnership had produced numerous hits, and their chemistry on television had made them household names across America. But for Dolly, the arrangement had become increasingly constraining. Her solo records were beginning to outperform their duets, and her songwriting was evolving beyond the traditional country format that Porter preferred. Wagoner's face flushed with anger. According to those present that day, his response was explosive, a combination of feeling betrayed, losing control, and perhaps recognizing that Dolly's star had grown too bright to remain in orbit around his own. "Nobody leaves my show," he reportedly shouted. "You'll be back singing in a dinner theater within 6 months." Rather than arguing, Dolly did something extraordinary. She unfolded the paper she'd been holding and asked if she could sing him something she'd written that morning. The song was, "I Will Always Love You," a gentle, heartfelt goodbye that acknowledged all Porter had done for her while firmly stating her need to move on. As she sang the now famous lyrics, Porter's anger gradually subsided, replaced by the recognition of both the song's beauty and its unmistakable message. The aftermath wasn't simple. Porter initially sued Dolly for breach of contract, demanding $1 million in damages, an enormous sum in 1974. Legal battles continued for years, with Dolly eventually paying a settlement to secure her professional freedom. The emotional toll was significant. Despite the conflict, she genuinely cared for Porter and recognized his role in her success. "I don't think I could have made it without Porter," Dolly later acknowledged. "I needed that time with him to learn and grow. But there comes a time when you have to leave the nest, and leaving was one of the hardest things I ever did." The decision marked not just a professional turning point, but a personal one. For perhaps the first time, Dolly had directly confronted a powerful man in the industry and insisted on controlling her own destiny, something vanishingly rare for female artists in the 1970s. The experience taught her valuable lessons about business, contracts, and the importance of owning her own publishing rights. Insights that would serve her well as her empire expanded. In the months that followed her departure from Porter's show, Dolly experienced exactly what many had predicted: a temporary setback. Radio stations loyal to Porter were reluctant to play her solo material. Some industry executives questioned whether she could succeed without his guidance. Her first few independent singles underperformed. But Dolly persevered, gradually building her own audience and refining her artistic vision. By 1977, she had scored her first crossover pop hit with Here You Come Again, validating her decision and silencing many critics. The song that she had written as a peace offering to Porter, I Will Always Love You, would later become one of the most successful songs in music history, especially after Whitney Houston's version in 1992. Years later, before his death in 2007, Porter Wagoner and Dolly reconciled. She visited him in the hospital, and they made peace with their complicated past. The turning point that had seemed so devastating had ultimately benefited them both. Porter's legacy was secured partly through his association with Dolly, while her decision to leave allowed her to become the cultural icon we know today. The contradiction at the heart of Dolly Parton has always been this: a woman instantly recognizable worldwide who has nonetheless maintained genuine privacy around her personal life. Her philosophy on this balance is best captured in her own words: I show my cleavage and all that, but I don't show my heart. Dolly's 55-year marriage to Carl Dean remains one of Hollywood's great mysteries, not because of scandal, but because of its normalcy. Carl, who ran an asphalt paving business in Nashville, has been photographed publicly with Dolly fewer than 5 times since their 1966 wedding. According to friends, this arrangement isn't evidence of trouble, but rather the foundation of their success. He's just not cut out for public life, Dolly has explained. He's my anchor in a world of craziness. Their daily life, when Dolly isn't touring or filming, reportedly revolves around simple pleasures. Early mornings often find Dolly in the kitchen of their Nashville home, cooking Carl's favorite breakfast of biscuits and gravy. Evenings might include drives in their pickup truck to favorite local spots, with Carl behind the wheel, and Dolly, sometimes still in full makeup and wig, enjoying the anonymity that comes from being with someone who has never treated her as a celebrity. Despite her larger-than-life public persona, those in Dolly's inner circle describe a woman with surprisingly modest personal habits. She's an early riser, often awake by 3 a.m. to meditate, pray, and write. Her office contains a small bed where she frequently naps between meetings rather than returning home. She rarely drinks alcohol, preferring sweet tea or coffee, and while her touring schedule is exhausting, she recharges through creative work rather than traditional vacations. Dolly's faith remains central to her identity, though she practices it without the judgment sometimes associated with religious devotion. Raised in the Pentecostal tradition, she maintains a personal relationship with God that informs her ethics but rejects dogmatic approaches to spirituality. I talk to God every day, she has said, and I think God speaks through all of us. I don't think God wants us to divide ourselves, but to love one another. This inclusive approach to faith extends to her stance on LGBTQ+ issues. Dolly has been a vocal ally long before it became common in country music circles. When asked how she reconciles this with her religious background, her response revealed the essence of her value system. I try to love everybody. I believe God made us all, and I'm not going to judge somebody for how they live their life or who they love. Perhaps most revealing of Dolly's character is her philanthropy, particularly the Imagination Library, which has distributed over 150 million books to children worldwide. Inspired by her father's illiteracy, the program reflects Dolly's belief in education as a pathway out of poverty. Unlike celebrities who attach their names to causes without substantial involvement, Dolly has been deeply engaged in the program's development and funding since its inception in 1995. My daddy couldn't read or write, but he was the smartest man I've ever known, Dolly has often said. I always wondered what he might have been if he'd had an education. Employees of Dolly's various businesses describe a boss who remembers birthdays, asks about family members by name, and maintains relationships with staff at all levels. Despite her wealth, she has never developed the entitled attitude that often accompanies fame. Housekeepers at hotels where she stays regularly report that she tidies her room before checkout, explaining simply, "I know what it's like to clean up after people." In a culture obsessed with exposing celebrities' private lives, Dolly Parton has maintained a rare dignity, not through aggressive privacy measures or legal threats, but by offering the public a genuine but carefully curated version of herself, while keeping her innermost life sacred. The glossy perfection of Dolly Parton's public image, the immaculate hair, the flawlessly applied makeup, the bedazzled costumes, has occasionally led to dismissal from critics who mistake packaging for substance. Throughout her career, Dolly has navigated criticism from multiple directions. Country purists who questioned her pop crossover ambitions, feminists who sometimes misinterpreted her hyper-feminine presentation, and industry executives who underestimated her business acumen. "I look like a woman," Dolly once quipped, "but I think like a man and have the heart of a little child. And I still have to remind some folks that there's a brain underneath this wig." The reality of Dolly's television appearances, particularly in the early days of The Porter Wagoner Show, reveals much about both the pressures she faced and her strategic responses to them. Television, in the late 1960s and early 1970s, was still a male-dominated business, with female performers often treated as decorative additions rather than artists in their own right. Former crew members from the show have described the exhausting production schedule, taping multiple episodes in a single day, with quick costume changes and little time for rest between segments. For Dolly, this meant arriving hours before cameras rolled for hair and makeup, performing under hot lights in elaborate outfits, and maintaining her signature upbeat energy take after take. What viewers at home never saw were the negotiations happening behind the scenes. Porter Wagoner, as both the star and executive producer, exercised considerable control over song selection, arrangements, and even Dolly's wardrobe. According to production staff from that era, disagreements were common, but rarely visible on camera. "Porter wanted things his way," one former director recalled. But Dolly had this gift for standing her ground while making you feel like she was compromising. She'd give in on something small to win on something important, like which of her songs they performed. The pressure on female performers extended beyond the stage. Country music in that era expected women to project wholesome values while simultaneously serving as visual entertainment for male viewers. Dolly navigated this contradiction by creating a character that was simultaneously sexy and untouchable, using humor to diffuse objectification and maintaining strict boundaries in her actual interactions with industry men. Television appearances also required a particular skill set beyond musical talent. The medium demanded condensed performances, scripted banter that appeared spontaneous, and the ability to connect with viewers through the camera. Dolly mastered these techniques quickly, understanding that television exposure could reach audiences far beyond the traditional country music circuit. Critics have occasionally targeted Dolly's carefully constructed image as inauthentic, missing the artistic intention behind her self-creation. As cultural critic Sarah Smarsh noted, Dolly's exaggeration of femininity is not a capitulation to male expectations, but a kind of armor, and at times, a satire of those very expectations. Environmental activists have sometimes criticized Dolly's Dollywood theme park for its impact on the Smoky Mountains region, though the park has won awards for its conservation efforts in recent years. Labor advocates have questioned working conditions at some of her enterprises, leading to policy changes and improved benefits. Perhaps the most persistent criticism has been the commercialization of Appalachian identity, the suggestion that Dolly's enterprises package mountain culture for tourist consumption in ways that reinforce stereotypes rather than challenging them. Dolly has acknowledged this tension while defending her approach as creating economic opportunities in a region that desperately needs them. "I never forget where I came from," she has said. But I'm not interested in keeping people stuck in poverty for the sake of authenticity. Progress doesn't mean forgetting your roots. It means giving folks a chance to grow. In an industry where female performers are often discarded as they age, Dolly has maintained relevance across decades through strategic reinvention. Television appearances on shows like Hannah Montana introduced her to new generations, while collaborations with younger artists kept her connected to evolving musical trends. The criticism and pressure Dolly has faced reveal much about American culture's complicated relationship with female ambition, rural identity, and the commercialization of authenticity, tensions that Dolly has not just survived, but transformed into the foundation of her enduring appeal. At 75, Dolly Parton shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, recent years have seen an acceleration of her creative output and cultural influence. Her Nashville office remains a hub of constant activity, with staff managing multiple projects across entertainment, business, and philanthropy. According to those close to Dolly, her typical workday still begins before dawn and often extends into the evening, a schedule that has remained consistent for decades. Musically, Dolly has embraced her elder stateswoman status while continuing to explore new territory. Her 2020 album, A Holly Dolly Christmas, became her 47th top 10 country album, extending her own record for female artists. More significantly, her 2022 rock album project, reportedly inspired by her induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, represents her willingness to challenge herself creatively well into her 8th decade. When I got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I thought, well, I'm not a rock artist, she reportedly said. But then I thought, why not become one? I've done a little bit of everything else. The COVID-19 pandemic, while disrupting tours and public appearances, seems to have sparked a period of heightened productivity for Dolly. Beyond recording projects, she has reportedly expanded her writing efforts, working on an autobiography that promises to address many of the rumors and speculations that have followed her career. According to publishing sources, this project differs from her previous memoirs in its depth and frankness, a reflection of her age and desire to set the record straight on her own terms. Physically, while Dolly acknowledges the challenges of aging, she maintains a grueling schedule that would exhaust performers half her age. Recent concert appearances have featured the same high-energy performances that have characterized her shows for decades, with only subtle accommodations for the passage of time. "I don't have the stamina I once did," she has reportedly admitted, "but I've learned to pace myself better. And thank goodness for modern medicine and makeup." Financially, Dolly's empire continues to expand. Dollywood, her theme park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, has grown to become the state's largest tourist attraction, employing thousands and contributing significantly to the regional economy. Recent additions include a $137 million expansion with new resort properties. Her business portfolio now includes entertainment production companies, restaurant concepts, and licensing deals that generate substantial revenue beyond her musical output. Philanthropically, Dolly's efforts have escalated in both scale and scope. The Imagination Library now distributes over 1 million books monthly to children across 5 countries. In 2020, her $1 million donation to Vanderbilt University Medical Center helped fund research for the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, an act that led some to jokingly credit her with saving the world. More recently, she has reportedly established new foundations focused on environmental conservation in the Smoky Mountains and support for aspiring musicians from disadvantaged backgrounds. Personally, after 55 years of marriage, Dolly and Carl Dean maintain their private life away from cameras. They celebrated their golden wedding anniversary in 2016 with a private vow renewal ceremony, an event Dolly described as emotional, but shared few details about, honoring Carl's lifelong preference for privacy. Perhaps most notably, Dolly's cultural relevance has only increased with age. Rather than fading into legacy act status, She has become a rare unifying figure in a divided cultural landscape, respected across political, geographical, and generational lines. Documentaries, podcasts, and academic studies analyzing her impact have proliferated, examining her significance as an artist, businesswoman, and cultural icon. I never thought I'd be more relevant at 75 than I was at 45, she has reportedly said. But I'll take it, and I've still got a few surprises left in me. What is it about Dolly Parton that creates not just fans, but devotees? In an industry where audience loyalty often fades after a few hit singles, how has Dolly maintained and even expanded her connection with listeners across generations? The answer lies partly in what fans call Dolly moments, specific experiences of her work that create personal, emotional connections transcending typical celebrity admiration. For older fans, these often center on her musical breakthroughs, hearing "Coat of Many Colors" on country radio in 1971 and recognizing the dignified portrayal of rural poverty, experiencing Jolene and feeling the universal fear of losing someone you love, or finding strength in 9 to 5 during workplace struggles. I first heard "Coat of Many Colors" when I was going through a divorce and had to move my kids back in with my parents, recalls Mary Henderson, a 67-year-old fan from Georgia. I was so ashamed of my situation until Dolly's song made me realize there's no shame in struggling, only in forgetting what matters. For middle-aged fans, Dolly moments often involve her films and television appearances, the cathartic revenge fantasy of 9 to 5, her vulnerable yet strong portrayal of Truvy in Steel Magnolias, or her appearance as Aunt Dolly in Hannah Montana, which introduced her to a generation of young viewers who might otherwise never have encountered her music. Younger fans, particularly those who discovered Dolly through social media or streaming platforms, frequently cite her philanthropy, business acumen, and outspoken support for marginalized communities as entry points to her broader work. Many express surprise at discovering the depth of her songwriting catalog after initially knowing her primarily as a cultural icon. I honestly thought she was just this campy country singer until I actually listened to her music, admits Jason Chen, a 23-year-old fan from California. Then I realized she's basically the Taylor Swift of her generation, writing these incredibly personal lyrics that somehow feel universal. What newcomers to Dolly's work should experience first depends on their interests, but longtime fans often recommend starting with her 1971 concept album, Coat of Many Colors, which showcases her storytelling abilities and authentic voice before the more produced sound of her later crossover hits. For those more interested in her pop sensibilities, 1987's Trio album with Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt offers gorgeous harmonies and accessible entry points to her style. The impact of Dolly's work extends beyond entertainment into the realm of identity formation. For many fans from rural or working-class backgrounds, Dolly represented possibility, proof that one could honor their origins while still dreaming beyond them. For women navigating male-dominated spaces, her blend of femininity and steely determination provided a template for maintaining authenticity while achieving success on one's own terms. What Dolly taught me, explains Dr. Patricia Wilson, a professor who grew up in rural Kentucky, was that I didn't have to choose between embracing my mountain heritage and pursuing education. She showed that you can be both and, not either or. What endures when we consider Dolly Parton's 6-decade journey through American culture isn't just hit songs or business success, but a masterclass in authenticity maintained through constant evolution. In a country often divided by region, politics, and values, Dolly has achieved something remarkable, becoming a cultural touchstone embraced across otherwise unbridgeable divides. Musically, her legacy includes 25 #1 hits, over 100 million records sold, and induction into multiple halls of fame. More significantly, she expanded the possibilities for female songwriters in country music, demonstrating that women could write their own material, control their own careers, and address subjects ranging from workplace inequality to sexual agency without losing their core audience. As a businesswoman, Dolly transformed the model of celebrity entrepreneurship. While many stars lend their names to products created by others, Dolly built enterprises that reflected her values and benefited her community. Dollywood isn't merely a theme park with her name attached. It's an economic engine that has created thousands of jobs in a region that desperately needed them, while preserving and celebrating Appalachian culture rather than erasing it. Philanthropically, the Imagination Library has literally changed the trajectory of millions of children's lives. Research has consistently demonstrated that early access to books significantly increases literacy rates and educational outcomes, particularly for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Dolly's program, inspired by her father's illiteracy, has delivered over 150 million books to children who might otherwise have grown up without them. Culturally, Dolly's most significant legacy may be her demonstration that femininity and strength are not opposing forces but complementary ones. By embracing an exaggerated feminine appearance while simultaneously building an empire through intelligence and determination, she challenged narrow definitions of womanhood and success. Dolly made me understand I could be both pretty and powerful, explains country music star Casey Musgraves. That I didn't have to downplay my femininity to be taken seriously as an artist or businesswoman. What the rumors and speculation around Dolly have often obscured is the remarkable consistency of her character beneath the evolving exterior. Throughout decades of fame, she has maintained the core values instilled during her childhood in the Smoky Mountains: work ethic, generosity, faith without judgment, and respect for all people regardless of status. The little girl who once helped her mother hang laundry outside a one-room Tennessee cabin now oversees a global entertainment empire. Yet in meaningful ways, she remains the same person, still rising before dawn to write, still speaking with the distinctive East Tennessee accent she never tried to polish away, still guided by the simple wisdom that if you see someone without a smile, give them yours. As she enters her late 70s, Dolly Parton's legacy is not fixed in the past, but actively evolving. Each new generation discovers her work and finds aspects that resonate with contemporary concerns. Her environmental advocacy, her support for LGBTQ+ rights, her belief in the dignity of all work, her philanthropic focus on literacy and education. In an age of carefully constructed celebrity images that often collapse under scrutiny, Dolly Parton's greatest achievement may be creating a public persona that, despite its theatrical elements, reflects rather than conceals her authentic self. The rumors, in the end, matter far less than the reality they've sometimes obscured. A woman of extraordinary talent and determination, who transformed not just her own circumstances, but the cultural landscape around her. As Dolly herself might say, every good story needs an ending, even when the subject is still writing new chapters. At 75, Dolly Parton continues to create, inspire, and occasionally surprise us. A living legacy whose impact spans music, business, philanthropy, and American culture itself. Beyond the rumors and rhinestones lies a woman whose genuine talent and character have earned her a rare place in our collective heart. If you followed Dolly's journey, share a memory or lesson she taught you in the comments below. Be kind in your reflections, as she would be. And if you want more thoughtful tributes like this, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.